previous video we added our first account. We also created a number of master file settings for payment terms, pay process periods. We're going to bring that together now when we create our first temporary job. So in Recruit Complete, a temp job is where a customer has requested that you provide them with labour of specific skills under specific terms and conditions for a specified period of time. And we are going to then allocate the right candidates to that job, and ultimately that will end up in a payroll and invoice. So just a bit of a recollection. So we have the concept of a job header, and then the job itself. The job itself is essentially, in this case, it's an enrolled nurse level 1 working in the day ward, and this is the schedule which shows that we want 2 enrolled nurses from the 16th to the 20th of March. I'm going to take you through the process of how we create that over the next series of videos. So let's now return to our Squirrel Talent that we've been building. Here is the customer that we added previously. I'm now going to check our pipeline statuses that we have created. And you can see that also in the last video we created our generic temporary pipeline. This is the pipeline we're going to use for the jobs. We're only going to be focusing on the unpublished. You can publish temporary jobs, i.e. the client may be asking for you to provide staff in the future, so you decide to publish your temporary job to potentially capture new candidates before the job commences. But let's assume in this case that the temporary job is, I need somebody next week, therefore it's expected that you can fill it from your candidate resource pool. The only thing that we do, and I talked about that in the previous video, where we set auto create employee on this stage, because it may be times when you want to take a inducted but not yet confirmed employee into a schedule. So if they are inducted and they've got all of the requirements met, you can, but they're not yet converted to the employee role, then putting them onto the schedule will do the same as that. It will actually create them as the employee role. So we've got our temporary pipeline, we've got our customer. So the first thing we want to do is go and build what we call the job header. Now you can add jobs from a number of places. I can come up here and I can go add job, and this is a temporary job, and I get my temporary job header. I'm going to explain the header in more detail, but here is the example of the header. But you can also, and therefore you would select the customer that you want for the job. But likewise you can add jobs from the customer, and we'll do that here just so that we're reminding you of our setup. So here is our customer setup. Remember, we defined the work sites that we would be providing staff to, the award and the finance settings for this particular customer. So here is our job. So we haven't had any jobs for this customer yet. We're going to add our first job. Because we are adding the job from the customer screen, then clearly the system already knows who the customer is, and we're going to give a title to the job that we're in. So they've asked us to provide cover for scheduled leave, KH, and it could be anything you want to buy, initial job. You can put any detail you want here. This is the customer, and then you say who within the who's the contact with the customer that you have worked through to secure this job. Remember that when we defined the Kinder Health customer, we could have defined one or more contacts. We only defined the one contact, hence Hamish King is the only one that is coming up in this lookup. We then select the work site, and again, if there was more than one work site, we would choose which one, and the notes here are populated from the work site. But you can add to the notes, in other words, specific to this job. So, and then you've made notes specific just to this particular job that we're adding now. Who will be the supervisor when your staff turn up? Hamish King. Again, you could add a different contact within Kinder Health. If you had multiple contacts, you could have a different supervisor. You could have somebody different within Kinder Health who is doing the approving the timesheets. You can have multiple approvers of the timesheets, both internal and external. In other words, both customers and internal employees in your business can approve timesheets. Note that in this case it doesn't require multiple approvers. Any one of our specified approvers will be able to approve timesheets for this job. Then who is the recruiter that we want to select for this job? Again, we will then be using that for margin reporting. So, who's the recruiter responsible for the job? It also means that Edward can act on this job as the recruiter, so he likewise can view timesheets as well. Who within the Kinder Health is going to receive the invoice for this job? And again, you may have a different person receiving the invoices than that is approving the timesheets than that is supervising the job. Again, that is simply determined by the contacts that you created for this customer. We're not going to worry about branch and brand for this moment. That's a conversation for another time. We can now enter the order number. Now you recall that if we don't have an order number, we can still progress. Even if on the customer record we said that an order number was necessary. We don't stop you from creating a job. We don't stop you from allocating candidates and doing timesheets and completing that job without an order number. But when an order number is required, then that order number must be provided before such time as you can generate your invoices. So we'll put an order number in here for the moment. Now the effective date is interesting because you're going to see that we can have this job, and this might be a job that stays open for months, years. You can extend jobs and so forth. This is almost like what we call the job header, because you're going to see the next stage is that we can add many positions to the job for different times. But sometimes you have an organization where you might extend a job, but they want to give you a new order number. So imagine that we'd had this job running for time, and then on the 1st of April they wanted to give us a new order number. Well, you don't need to create a new job. You just create a new order number, and it's effective from the new date. So therefore, any invoices which are generated in this situation will be generated with the order number post the 1st of April will be generated with that order number. So it's really neat to not have to create new jobs just because a customer has decided they want to allocate a new order number to a long-standing job. This is a description. This is a general description that will generate and print on the invoice. Finally, I typed it right. So we're going to go next now, but let's just do a cap because they're going to end this video at this stage. So for a job has a header. So a job header can have many positions working within it. So for example, this might be cover for scheduled leave, and you're going to see in the next video that we can have an enrolled nurse, we could have an aged care, we could have other roles all being managed under this particular job header. A job header is for a work site. So if you're providing staff to Kinder Care, in this case to different work sites, then you would have a different job header. That then means that all jobs within this header will have the same supervisor, same approvers, recruiters, and so forth. The only potential change will be the order number, which is determined by the effective date. So in this example, we have a job header that says we're going to provide staff to Kinder Health. We're going to provide them in their worksite hunting aged care. Amanda and Hamish King can approve timesheets. Edward Paul is the recruiter, and Hamish King will receive all invoices. So in the next video, we're then going to take you through the concept of adding your position to the job and determining the schedule for that job. Thank you very much.